if Prime Minister Mark Carney wants the Major Projects Office to go ahead with less conflict and more buy-in, he's going to have to start communicating a lot better. Yesterday, I watched the APTN, which is the Indigenous News Channel, talk about the Indigenous Advisory Council for the MPO. No, MPO is the Major Projects Office. The Indigenous Advisory Council is made up of 11 people from across Canada, from the different Indigenous communities, and their job is to advise the non-Indigenous people that will be within the Major Projects Office. But here's the thing, because there's no real communication, it enables people to cause problems, to stir the pot, to create conflict between different Indigenous nations. And that is happening, especially in Manitoba. Why is it happening? Because the Indigenous people do not want to feel left out. They don't want their voices not to be heard. And they're not understanding what this advisory council's purpose is. You know, I'm going to read from the Major Projects Office's website, or the Government of Canada's website, about the Indigenous Advisory Council's purpose, and talk about it a little bit more. So maybe to start with, so the Indigenous Advisory Council will support the Major Projects Office by ensuring that partnership and Indigenous economic participation are embedded in major projects advanced in Canada. Council will meet a minimum of 4 times a year in person and other virtual meetings when required. They will provide expert advice on policy, operational practices, and process improvements relating to the inclusion of Indigenous perspectives on and interest in major projects. The Council will help shape how the office works with Indigenous peoples, including providing advice on advancing economic participation in major projects and how best to integrate United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples principles throughout the process. The Advisory Council is not there to pick the projects. That is clear in what I just read. It's there to ensure that the proponents of the project, so the companies that are going to be building it, the investors that come, the premiers of the different provinces and territories, as well as the staff of the Major Projects Office, understand how to approach the Indigenous communities that are going to be affected by the projects, and to ensure that the projects will have the economic benefit for those communities. They're there to rubber stamp the project, saying, yes, they were consulted. Yes, they do have an economic benefit. Yes, it does meet with the UN's Declaration of Representation of Industrial Peoples. They're not there to say, well, we speak on behalf of this nation, although there are voices out there saying that that's what the Advisory Council does. One such voice was on APTN yesterday. The thing is, the Prime Minister needs to get on the news, needs to sit down with the journalists of APTN. Now, it doesn't have to be the Prime Minister. In fact, it would be better if it wasn't the Prime Minister. It'd be better if it was the Indigenous minister. If the Indigenous minister met with the journalists and explained how these 11 people were picked, why these 11 people were picked, what is the role of these 11 people? Because from what I can tell, none of them are chiefs. It's not like they went and got the elected people and the chiefs. Those people are not part of this council. This council isn't about being the voice of the people. It's filled with people who have brought projects to fruition. utilizing negotiation and consultation skills to develop relationships between non-Indigenous and Indigenous. They've helped bring projects from idea to fruition, from what I can tell reading their bios and portfolios. It's not a political advisory council, yet some voices are trying to make it political, and it's causing conflict. And when you have conflict, that's when the barriers go up. That's when problems happen. And if the Prime Minister doesn't want conflict and he wants Canada to build fast, he's going to have to communicate a lot clearer about what it is that he's doing. And yeah, be transparent about the thought process. Why were these people picked? What criteria did they meet? That's important stuff for in this case, the Indigenous people to know and understand, so that they can go, oh yeah, that's okay, I get it. Yeah, no, that has nothing to do with us. Yeah, why would we want to be on that council? That we don't know we don't want to, there'd be too big of a learning curve for someone. It's not about making sure that every single nation is represented on this council. What it is to ensure that the people on the council have the skills and knowledge and experience to help build the bridge between non-Indigenous builders, non-Indigenous decision makers, and the leaders of the Indigenous people. It's to help ensure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, and that no one is left out. Here's the thing about not communicating, not being clear, especially when you have a population that has been traumatized by government, and there's change. Whenever there's change, even if you haven't been traumatized, just think about how many times you've worked for a company where they've merged with someone, or you get a new boss. It causes anxiety, especially if you are traumatized, but it causes you anxiety even if you're not, because you're unsure about what's going to happen next. Do I get to keep my job? Are they going to change what I do? How is this going to affect me? And when you don't know how it's going to affect you, you catastrophize. You see the worst. And instead of planning for the worst, a lot of people will just put their head in the sand and vent. And when you're venting, you're saying things that you don't really mean, you don't really come from places of not understanding, and then you're getting judged based on what you said. So there are some voices in the Indigenous community. One such voice that was on the news has a plum de noom, one of those fake names that she uses to cause fake news and conflict in different nations in Canada. The news really should be screening their talking heads better. And I say that normally a lot. If you're a news station and you are bringing people into the news because they're experts, you should make sure that they really know what they're talking about, that they are definitely got the best interests of Canada, and don't have a pot stirring, conflict creating persona, alter ego. The thing is, Canada, we have a choice. Our choices are simple. We either embrace the values of Canada, which is community, order, peace, good governance. We embrace that and move forward together to a new future. A future that, yes, I am very excited about, because it will cut a lot of the strings that tie us to America. And I believe 100% that Canada has been limited by American interests. That Canada could have been a much bigger economy, a stronger economy with way more wealth and opportunity. Our brightest and smartest wouldn't have had to go to the States because there would have been opportunities here in Canada for them had it not been for NAFTA, had it not been for the leaders of Canada that gave up power to American presidents after World War II. We shut down the size of our Navy and our Army. We shelved the Avro Aero project. We did a lot of things that, in the best interest of the American governments of the United States of America, than in the best interest for Canadians. This is, I mean, I'm only 50. Canada's 150 years old. So for the 50 years that I've been around in it, this is the first time I've seen a prime minister put Canada first before American interests. And that's what I'm excited about. That's what I got behind. I've always had an interest in politics. I've always had an interest in our political world, but I haven't had a voice in it because, one, I didn't agree with the leaders, or I was too busy raising a family. But two, Canada was just going along. I didn't feel my voice would have an impact. This time I do. This time I believe in what is happening so strongly, and I want to see it succeed. So I want to help Canadians to break through the fake news, the misunderstandings, to knock off the pot stirring, conflict creating, political pandering that has been going on for the last 10 years and has been moving Canada towards a more American way of politics instead of remaining in Canadian values of peace, order, and good governance. With communication comes clarity. With clarity comes buy-in. Plus, you can have discussions to fill those gaps. That's what that advisory council is for, is to have a discussion to fill in the gaps, to ensure there are no gaps, that when they're putting people together on projects, they have the right people coming to have those conversations and not the pot stirring disturbers that are trying to have a voice because they have political pandering or a social justice interest. Canadians have a choice. And I hope that you, along with me, want to go forward with Canada becoming more strong, becoming diversified, becoming wealthier for all Canadians. That does include the Indigenous people, who are actually probably, at the way things are going as a community, are going to come out really good. Because here's the thing, non-Indigenous Canadians, we're all individuals. Our wealth is all individual. The Indigenous communities that have embraced Western society, like West Kelowna, they have a lot of wealth as a community. You know, how they distribute that wealth, I'm not sure. I'm not indigenous, I'm not Indigenous, and I'm not going to put my toe in there. That's between the people within those communities. But they have an opportunity to develop a lot of wealth for their communities and share it between their peoples. And I hope that they do. They deserve it. They deserve the money that they will make in order to be able to build the schools, build the roads, build the programs that they need to help their individuals become successful. And that's what they want. And it's time for it to happen. It's time to stop talking about it and start working towards real wealth, real self-government, real independence from that stupid Indian Act, which definitely needs to be updated. But once again, I'm not Indigenous, not my place. I'll let them deal with that. Well, let me know what you think. If I've offended anyone in the Indigenous community by being a non-Indigenous person speaking up, I apologize. Wasn't my meaning. All I wanted to say is the government, the Minister of Indigenous Affairs, the Prime Minister needs to be more communicative, provide more clarity to ensure that we have no conflict. Please message them online. Go to the PMO office, go to the parliamentary website, get their email address, and ask them to be more upfront about why did you pick these people? Why are these the people that are on the Indigenous committee or council? What's the purpose of the Indigenous Advisory Council? Educate yourself, understand what's going on. So when you see those voices that are trying to create conflict in your community on things like APTN or on social media, you will know the truth. And you will not be taken in by their lies and misinformation. It's up to you to educate yourself. It's up to you to be informed so that the wool cannot be pulled over your eyes. It's up to you. And all it takes is asking the questions and asking our leaders to be more upfront and forthcoming in their communications. Well, until next time, peel out.